Okay, so hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining us again. So I'm Ming, I'm the host for this evening. And before we get started, let me just briefly introduce who we are and what we do. So I'm representing Upswing Academy here. And also we have Helen over there. Helen, would you mind just wave your hand? So that's Helen, that's our partner from Azul Education Services. So Upswing Academy is based in Oakville, Ontario. We provide a variety of educational programs for students from grade 3 to grade 12, including English writing, ESL, English academic writing, as well as STEM and leadership and innovation programs for young children. So that's what we do. And we have our slogan is bring all learners above and beyond. We hope to help all our students to reach their potential. Okay, that's about Upswing Academy. And then Helen, it's your time, your turn. What about Azul Education Services?
Thank you, Ming. Thank you for having me. I am Helen Philippe. I'm the Executive Director of Azul Education Services. And we primarily work with high school students in assisting them in that transition to either college, university. Most likely it's university. And one of the things that I'm very proud of our services, in addition to helping students, everything from discovering career planning and which universities, which programs, is we have a very good, robust number of education associates, and Breanna is actually one of them. So it's a student who's currently in a program at a university that is available to share their experience and also answer any of your questions. So thank you for having us.
Thank you, Helen. It's so exciting to see Breanna and you this week. Okay, great. Okay, so very brief introduction about Breanna. Of course, she can talk a little bit more about herself afterwards. So she's actually the fourth-year student at Western University, has a major in health science. I think everybody knows about that. Actually, he had an amazing high school average at 93%, amazing score. And she got actually offers from 5 universities, including Western, Queen's, Waterloo, and Laureate University and the University of Guelph. Amazing achievements. Okay, so that's Breanna. Now, Breanna, the room is yours. So now you can share your screen and we can get it started. Okay, now it's your turn. So, okay, just again, everyone, if you have any questions, you are encouraged to type your questions in the chat box. Okay, so after the presentation, after Breanna's introductions about the program, we'll go through all the questions in the chat box. Okay. Yeah, you're all ready?
Yes, I am. Hey, so hi everyone. As Ming and Helen mentioned, I am Breanna. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to be here with everyone today. And so to start off, just to introduce myself, I'm in my 4th year of health sciences at Western University. So to get to know me a little bit better, I have a bit here about me and my academic journey so far. So I went to high school at Holy Name of Mary College School in Mississauga, where I was my grade 12's classes salutatorian, meaning I delivered a speech where I formally greeted everyone at our graduation ceremony. And I was also an athletics representative on my school student council. In terms of university, I was accepted, like Ming said, to Western, Queen's, Waterloo, Laurier, and Guelph for varying health sciences, kinesiology, and human kinetics programs. And ultimately, in the end, I obviously chose Western Health Sciences. And the way I would be able to make my program my own was one of the main reasons why I chose to accept my Western offer, which I'll talk a little bit more about later. But also visiting the campus and comparing it to my other top program at the time, which was Laurier, was when I knew that I wanted to attend Western. And obviously, I'm very glad that I did. At Western, I received an admission scholarship upon my entrance to the university. In my 2nd year, I chose to live in residence once again, as I had in my 1st year, so that I could be a resident Soph. And so at Western, we have an orientation program, just like other universities do. But our school is specifically known for providing the best student experience. And one of the reasons is because of the unique role that Sophs play. So that was the role that I had. And so as a resident Soph, I was a year-long orientation volunteer, meaning I lived in the same building as first-year students and provided them with support and while they were adjusting to university and undergoing the major transition from high school to university. And while also being there as a friend, I was there to help out the first year students every day. So every first year is assigned a few resident softs, and then they also, even if you live off campus, you'll get resident softs to help you through your experience. And then you'll also get faculty softs, which help you specifically with academics, which is obviously always a concern going into a new space. And so there will always be people to guide you there. And then in my second year, I was also a tour guide for my residence, which was Ontario Hall residence building. Further, I was an English Conversation Program Facilitator with the International and Exchange Student Center at Western. And so my role there, I held weekly sessions with my group of English as a second language participants. And the goal is to increase communication skills and social confidence of students, while also providing them with feedback and correction on their English. And the academic engagement point I mentioned here is something that Learning Skills Services at Western provides to students who attend a number of different sessions that are meant to help with different aspects of university. For example, they have how to take multiple choice tests, enhancing your note-taking skills, workshops like that, and presentations to help you as a student. And in terms of what's next for me after I graduate this year, it will be more school. I'm not exactly sure where I'll be in September, but I'm in the process of applying to grad schools. And I've already applied to occupational therapy programs. So that's the goal. And aside from academics, because they're important, but they're not everything, I'm really passionate about sports and instruments. So I play the piano, the ukulele, and I also am interested in soccer, volleyball, flag football. So you could find me doing that when I'm not studying. Okay, so quickly before I get into health sciences, I just wanted to explain a little bit of the differences between the types of science, because I'm going to be specifically talking about health science. At some schools, you might hear biological sciences referred to as life science or physical science, general science. So these are really just different names for biological sciences. But to clarify what they all are. So when we're discussing health sciences, we're mainly talking about health and wellness as it refers to like a human level, as well as health systems and how health functions within society. Whereas MedSci is more of a molecular cellular level, and this is looking inside the human body. And so in MedSci, you'll find programs such as physiology and biochemistry. And then when you're looking at biological sciences, that's more so organisms and biological organization. And so one example of a program, which is on this slide, would be ecosystem health. So specifically with my degree, it's a little bit confusing because as you'll see, almost everything on the list says health sci. But basically I am completing my Bachelor of Health Sciences. I'm in the Faculty of Health Sciences as well. And within health sci, there are 3 schools of study. So there's kinesiology, nursing, and health studies, which is the one that I'm in. And then my module is also health sciences, but I'll discuss the options a little bit later. And to provide more clarity on the term faculty, at a lot of schools, it's called like departments. So that would also mean the same thing. So bear with me. I know the slide is quite wordy and has a lot of information, but I will take you through it. So coming out of high school, if you're applying to health sci at Western, you'll need to have taken grade 12 English, biology, and then at least one of the U-level math courses, which would include advanced functions, calculus and vectors, and data management. So you can take more than one if you want, but just minimum one. I took advanced functions in calculus when I was in high school. And then with respect to grades, the average of your top 6 grade 12 U or M level courses, which would be inclusive of the 3 prerequisites I mentioned, so the English, biology, and math, would be included in your average calculation, and that has to be a minimum of 80 in order to get into the health science program. However, the Western website does mention that it's competitive, and so the guidelines they provide are to aim for high 80s to low 90s. And again, it's just a range. It doesn't necessarily guarantee admission, but that's what you should aim for. And then, so those would be your required grade 12 courses, but I did quickly want to mention, if you're interested in medicine or dentistry, which are both career options coming out of health sciences, you would want to take grade 12 U chemistry, because that would be a requirement later on in university to take first year chem and second year chem. You would have to have that high school credit. And then, yeah, once you're in health sciences for your first year, you'll need to take personal determinants of health, which is 1 semester in length. And then the second half to that is social determinants of health, and that would be your second semester. And then you'll also take biology for both semesters as well. And those are your only mandatory courses that year. And then in terms of progression requirements for each of the following years within the program, you'll complete an intent to register, which not something you have to worry about just yet. Academic counselors will help you with that. But basically it's when you declare your area of study. And the first time you do that is once you're actually in first year. So not something to worry about in high school. But as I said earlier, there are module options, and those are health and aging. So with that area of study, your focus would be on older populations and their health. You also have health sciences with biology, which is a good combo for people who are interested in the more bio or med sci aspects of science, like I mentioned earlier. Rehabilitation sciences, which is great if you're interested in physiotherapy, for example. There's health promotion as well. And then lastly, health sciences, which is the one I'm in, the most general of them all. And I chose to go with this specifically because it allowed me to develop a holistic perspective of health. And I don't have as many electives as certain other students in my program, so it's not as restrictive, and I've been able to take courses across all of health and whatever has been of interest to me. And then just some other options you have. You can combine your health sciences degree with Ivy, which is the business school at Western. So if you're interested in maybe health management or just getting both of those degrees, you can definitely do that. And then if health sciences is of interest to you, but you don't want to do your whole major on it, you're allowed to minor in health sciences as well. And then getting on to second year, there's quite a few listed here, so I won't read all of them, but your second year is definitely the one with the most required courses, so that's a little bit jam-packed. And each of those that I've listed there are worth 0.5 credits, meaning they're half of a school year, so 1 semester in length. And then finally in third year, your only required course will be measurement and analysis in health sciences. And that's sort of like a follow-up course to the mandatory research methods course that you would take in second year. And that has aspects of data and stats to it. And it's to get you comfortable with like quantitative research, basically. And for the grades that you would be required for each of these mandatory courses, it's all dependent on the kind of specialization or major that you want. So you get to pick between Honours Specialization, or a major. Honours Specialization is the one I'm in, and the only difference between these is the marks you have to maintain to progress. So there are options depending on like what level of work you're achieving. And then other than that, every student will have breadth requirements, which are just a certain number of credits you have to achieve coming from courses outside of your type of program, which is honestly nice. So it gets you to explore from different faculties and stuff. Like in my first year, I took economics, which is not related to health science at all, but I was interested, so I was able to do that. And then now I'm going to talk about how you can prepare in high school. And this is going to be a little bit general. I'm not going to say health science specifically, just because health science, for me at least at Western, there was no supplementary applications. So it does seem like they're mainly focusing on your grades and that average that I talked about with your top 6 marks. However, look into it, of course, because other schools do have supplementary applications. That said, I did participate in numerous extracurriculars in high school, such as volunteering throughout my time in high school, but that wasn't directly related to getting my degree, as they didn't ask for that information. And again, this is a health science perspective, so if you're looking into other types of science, I would suggest also seeing if they have a supplementary application, even at Western, because each program is different, of course. But yeah, so my first tip would be to start researching as soon as you can. It's somewhat overwhelming, I know, but I believe that it'll be overwhelming regardless of when you start. So it's better to start sooner, because the more you understand the process, I feel like you get more calm and comfortable with it. My next piece of advice would be, it goes for both high school and university, and it's in terms of prerequisites. So you don't need to know exactly what you're going to do in the next 10 years, but I would say to start having a general idea, of course, of the areas that you're interested in, because this will allow you to prepare and ensure that you're eligible for admission into whatever programs interest you. And so coming out of high school, for example, with me, I didn't actually know for sure what I wanted my job to be. I knew health was like the field that I wanted to go into. And honestly, at that time, dentistry was my top interest, not the goal right now, but that's why I chose to take grade 12 chemistry as well, just to prepare me for that. And then I did end up taking first year chem at university too. And same with physiology in university, I took that as well, again, keeping potential career options in mind, knowing what the prerequisites would be. So you can kind of look into that online and see what kind of courses are required so that it's not the end of the world, because you can go back and take those courses in the summer or in your semester if you want, but it was just for me, I liked having it organized and like in that year taking the course. So if I did want to go into that career option, I was prepared for it. And then I would say OUAC is for sure the main hub for post-secondary school applications, but in Ontario, but some require more than just the courses, like I said, with the supplementary applications. So I would look into it to see if there's any essay requirements or other components such as video submissions, for example, that you may have to complete prior to the application deadline. And then I know this last one is easier said than done. It may seem like you need to decide everything right now, but I promise you, you don't. I would say continue learning, see what you're passionate about. And of course, you do need to be prepared and thinking about the fields that interest you, what programs will lead you down the right path successfully. But one of the reasons I do love speaking to students going through the university process now is to tell them what I heard multiple times and didn't believe, in hopes that you'll believe me, which is that you don't have to have it all figured out right now. And I know people in all years of university from first to fifth year who are still unsure. Not saying that that's ideal, but through exploring, taking courses, figuring out what you enjoy, it will come to you. And I think it's better to do that than forcing a decision and having to backtrack and redo everything. So just obviously make sure you're doing something that works for you. And that leads me to my last point to talk a little bit about learning once you're actually in university. So I'll start by saying one thing that I've loved about Western is the way I've been able to tailor my degree. As I mentioned, I've kept it general by doing the health sciences module. And so I've been able to do a huge variety of health related courses, including courses about understanding stress, the history of food and the ethics surrounding food, health management, creative healing, which describes how different types of art form can be significant healing for people, and mental health courses as well. So I'm saying it's important to explore your options when doing course selection, and your breadth requirements obviously help you do this and help you branch out from your faculty, but choosing what you actually want to learn will make such a big difference, because when you're interested in the content, that motivates you to work hard in that class and you'll enjoy actually going and attending school. Next, I want to mention experiential and international learning opportunities. So I have a friend who's in my program. She ended up going to Australia for her whole third year on exchange. And then I also have another friend who went to Scandinavian countries, including Norway, Sweden, and Denmark for a course about aging globally. And that's offered through health sciences here. So that's an option as well. And if that's something that interests you, I would definitely recommend looking into it, because here at Health Sciences, at Western, we're actually lucky because we have something called the Student Opportunity Fund, or the SOF, and that helps support students in funding activities and events like that that fall outside of your normal tuition costs. So there are scholarships, bursaries, and stuff that can help you. And it's special because it's just for health sci here. So you are going to get a chunk of that if you do want to explore those options. And then another experiential learning opportunity is practicums, independent studies, and internships. I'm currently completing a practicum in my fourth year for credit, and you're able to do that through an application process as long as you're in the Honours Specialization module. And this has been great practical experience for me, just getting an experience of how health works like actually in the field before graduating. So I do have that experience that I can use later on as well. And then one of the major pluses at university are the benefits, many of which are free to you as a student. There are numerous campus services and resources available to you, from learning skills to academic peer support. And I would say make sure you try to use them, especially if you feel they can be of advantage to you. And just to add again, Sophs and upper year students are definitely a resource as well. Same with professors. I know one thing that I think if I could change a little bit was to start forming relationships with professors earlier on. I did end up doing this, but in my upper years, and it's definitely useful for things like references when you're applying to grad school. But aside from that, it's honestly just good to have a great relationship with professors, especially in health sciences. The first couple years, the class sizes are about like 300 to 400, depending on the courses. So it is pretty big. And it's just very nice when your professor knows who you are and you can have that relationship with them. And then next, as obvious as it sounds, I would say to stay organized. It's a simple one. It might be a calendar, an agenda, or reminders for you. Whatever it is, I would say stick with it and try your best to stay on top of it, because it is difficult to catch up once you've fallen behind, especially with the fast pace of university. And that's one of the biggest differences, I would say, from high school. No one is checking your homework to see if it's completed. You don't even have to attend class if you don't want to. So it really is up to you to take ownership and make sure you're committing to your own learning in university. One of my biggest regrets is that I wasn't engaging in activities sooner. University is daunting because there's a lot of new faces. It's a big place, a lot of people surrounding us that we haven't met before. And so I think that caused me to shy away from putting myself out there a little bit more at first. There's so many associations and clubs and opportunities for you to get involved. And at Western, we have the USC, which is our student government. And if there isn't a club for something that you're interested in, you can just make one. So there's an option for everyone. There's different hobbies, associations that you can get involved in. And doing this would help you meet people that you'll be with the whole way through university. You can navigate university together, and it just makes you feel like you're at home away from home. And that contributes to your success at university as well. And for me, getting involved in Sophing, the orientation volunteering, was definitely one of the best decisions I made. I got to help first year students, and it was just a great time in general. And it's how I met my housemates who I'm living with now. So that was a plus for sure. Yeah, and then next I would say prepare for the future, but also be present. It's easy to let it all slip by you. I would say enjoy yourself, and you definitely need to focus on your academics. But again, I want to stress that universities are great big places with so much to do and experience. So you should definitely capitalize on the opportunities and resources that you have here while you're actually at university and have the chance to do so. And lastly, as I wrap up, I know I've spoken for a bit, but I just wanted to say as an example, my housemate, he actually switched faculties at Western from med sciences to health sciences and then to social sciences, all while he was here at Western. So that was 3 faculty changes, but it's just to emphasize that we have academic counselors and students who are going through the process. So you're not alone, and people will definitely be guiding you along the way. But yeah, that's it for me for now. I think we are going to do questions in a second, but yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Breanna. Wow, that's a lot of information. Wow. Okay, so yeah, I think our audience are coming up with questions. I already see one of them over there. So yeah, it's time for you to ask questions. So you can ask about questions about this particular major, this particular school, this particular program, or something in general, like how did you prepare and all that question. I leave the question to you guys. Okay, so I do have a question for you, Breanna. You actually mentioned that when you were in high school, you want to be a dentist, right? You were interested in dentistry, and then eventually you choose this health science. And how did you know that you are interested in dentistry? How do you know that you are interested in health science? Because I mean, for many of our high schoolers now, right? It's a question: should I go for science? Should I go for computer science, or should I go for management? I mean, they do have a lot of options. And then choosing a major, I mean, it's critical. Of course, in the school, you can somehow still navigate, change another major. It's still possible. But to make a decision now, it's critical as well, right? And how did you know that you want, so basically, what, any reason that you choose health science? you know that this is what your career. So what's your, how do your mind process that information?
For sure. So when I was getting towards the end of high school, I also didn't know. I always knew I didn't want to go to med school or be like a physician or a doctor. So that was something that was just immediately canceled out for me. But then when I started to look more into dentistry, just because in general, like I just enjoyed the dentist. So that was just something for me. I was like, wait, let me like see if that's something I would actually like to do, because it is in the field of health, which is generally what I knew I was interested in. And so that became more of an option. And as I looked at health science programs, I realized that you definitely could go into a health sciences degree and go to dentistry school after, which is honestly a common misconception with med school. For example, people think you need to be in med sciences or sciences in your undergrad, but you're allowed to have any undergraduate bachelor degree. Like some people from music go to med school after, because it's all about like MCAT for that. It doesn't matter like what your degree is. But for dentistry specifically, it was you need like a degree in science or a science related field. So health science did qualify as that. And that's when I looked up courses that would be required in university if I did want to go down that career path. And that included biology, chemistry, and physiology courses. And that's kind of how I set up like my first year of university, because again, the only mandatory courses I had were determinants of health and biology. So there was room for electives. So I was like, okay, just in case I am still interested in dentistry down the line, I'll take chemistry now. So I have that option available to me. But I think for me, throughout the whole process, it was just keeping it general, because I didn't know necessarily what I wanted to do. And with health sciences, there's so many career opportunities, physical therapy, occupational therapy, medicine, health policy, health management. Like honestly, the options were endless, which was another plus for me going into it, because I was like, okay, at least if I complete this degree, I'll be able to do all these things still too. But yeah, that was it for me. I think because I was so indecisive, I was like, let me choose a program in a field that I know I like, which was health, and I'll have options as I go through to decide what exactly it is I wanted to do without having to go back and like start my degree over, like redo that like, process of picking.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I know this is a very general question. I mean, probably just like, okay, I want to be a dentist, and that's the only reason, right? Okay, so yeah, I've seen a lot of questions over there, and how about we get started with the questions? Okay, the first question from Mofi. Okay, I'm just wondering if my first year at university is crucial. I mean, yeah, it's critical for entering Ivy. Do you have any suggestion and advice for transitioning from high school to university? Yeah, I mean, that's a big jump from high school to university. And you also mentioned a little bit in your presentation. Any additional advice, suggestions for our high school students?
Yeah, so with the first part of that question, I'm not in Ivy, so I don't want to speak to it too much, but I do know you do have the option, like coming out of high school, to do the advanced entry opportunity. And so that kind of gets you into Ivy earlier, except it's not like confirmed. You do have to do well in your first and second year to actually then get into the HBA program in your third year. So your grades do matter in those first couple years in order to be like confirmed, because you can have like the AEO or the advanced entry opportunity status, but it's not confirmed until you reapply technically right before third year. And then in terms of transitioning, yeah, I mentioned a couple of those points, but I'd say definitely like try for yourself to find out what methods work for you in terms of like the different aspects of once you're going to be in university. So what works for you with note taking? How do you like to study for tests? How much time do you need before a test to set aside to study for that course? Things like that, like so that when you have assignments or exams coming up, you already have allocated in your head, okay, this is how long it's going to take for me to do that. And that way, throughout the whole year, even as you may get new assignments and whatnot, you do have a general like organization that you stick with that helps you keep going steady along track. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Next one from Lily. What are some of the professions that you can choose after graduating from health science?
Okay, so dentistry, like I said before,
Dentistry, okay.
you can go into nursing, you become a doctor, biomedical ethics, you can go into business, healthcare management, health policy and ethics. You can continue into graduate school. Education is an option for some people, healthcare law, public health, community health, global health. There's honestly like a lot of options because if you choose to do it that way, you can make it general and have the requirements for each of those. And some of those options do require postgraduate studies, but the degree will set you up for that. And then there also are job options like certain careers in public health, for example, that you may not necessarily need to do anything else after your bachelor's degree. So it's really dependent on what actually interests you.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so, I think in your introduction, you were talking about like this health science, actually more of a general kind of learning, right? It's not very specific granular level, like the medicine or certain things, right? So basically,
Yeah,
actually, you really prepare yourself for all kinds of professions. Yeah.
Yeah. I would say yes, because it's less specific than other types of science, for example, med sci, because you're focusing specifically on medical sciences. Health science is general, but it's like within the realm of human health, and you can specialize and make it as specific as you want. I just didn't choose to do that. But I know like some of my friends are in the rehabilitation sciences module. So most of their courses are related to physiotherapy, anatomy, things like that, so that they're getting ready to go specifically into physio or occupational therapy, stuff like that, so that they have more of that background. Like I have a friend as well who she is applying for nursing right now after this degree, and she could have easily, like Western has an undergraduate nursing program, and so she could have done that if she wanted, but again, she chose health sciences, so she got that background and then realized, okay, I still do want to do nursing after she finished her undergrad degree, and then chose to apply for it after, because you can, because there's graduate schools for it as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, this is a very good question. I mean, I'm just thinking about that because whatever major you choose may be your future career, or it may not be, right? And some people will choose, I want to be an accountant. So I start with commerce, accountant, and then I will be accountant in the future. Some people do that. I think Helen got something to say about this.
I do, but Breanna, you've said it perfectly. The only thing I'd add is health sciences is very broad, and very often we think of just those standard professions, just as you said, in dentistry and medicine, but there are so many professionals within the healthcare system. If you think about it, just, if anything happens to you when you get injured, you go to the hospital, you don't immediately see the doctor, you don't immediately see the nurse. There's so many professionals related to or medical sciences. So definitely it's an area that I think will always have growth, because as humans, human health is very important to us.
Okay,
agreed.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Okay, I heard in high school that there is AB courses. There are AB courses. Do you recommend taking them?
Not going to say too much about this because my high school didn't offer them, but I do know some schools do, and I'm not sure if that made a difference for people once they were in university. But I know not having taken AP courses, I did fine throughout the process. So again, I think a personal decision, and probably speak to people who have taken the courses, but my high school didn't have that option.
Mm-hmm.
If I can add, what advanced placement courses assist you as students? So it's really an advantage to you, is it prepares you for the same pace and the same level of your own independent learning that will happen in university. They may not necessarily count differently, but it is a huge advantage to students. But just as Breanna said, it's really up to you. If your school doesn't offer it, don't worry about it.
I think also financially, if you're taking IB or AP, that helps a little bit as well, right? I mean, those would be as a credit for university. So you kind of save a little bit of money over there as well. So yeah, but don't really worry over it if it's not offered from your school. Yeah, it's good to have, but like Breanna mentioned, I mean, you can still go to university, you can choose the major you like without a problem. Yeah, okay, next one. From Ray, I'm trying to play university soccer. Any idea what the process is like?
Yes, I can describe this a little bit because in grade 11 and 12, I did kind of go through that process and then chose not to play. I just like to say there are like intramural options, like ranging from recreational to competitive, if that's something that interests you. But then also, I think you're most likely referring to like varsity sports, which are like teams recognized by the school and you travel, the equivalent of like rep or competitive when you're still in high school doing sports. But yeah, that's like a whole separate other thing, but recruiting would take place. You would want to reach out to the coaches at that university, have them know your name. If you have, I don't know how it's working with COVID right now, but if you have games, you would want them to come watch you, like give them your schedule and things like that. And then Western also has like some training and like ID camps that happen prior to when you would join the school year. And so if they reach out to you at those events, that can also help you get onto the team. But yeah, that's like a whole specific other realm.
Okay. Next one is about co-op. Would you recommend co-op? And do you know someone who does co-op, and how is it like?
In high school or university?
I think university is. Does Western has co-op program?
So yeah, for at least with health science, the options you have are independent study, practicum, and in some science faculties here, you can do like internships as well. Yeah, for us, it's only an option in fourth year. I think independent study, you can start as early as third year though. And I definitely would recommend it. It's been a great experience for me so far. And I know like in summers in the past, when I've tried to get a job within the health related field, it's been difficult sometimes. As a student, like sometimes they are looking for experience, but it's hard to gain that when you don't have your degree yet or you don't have connections necessarily. So doing that kind of placement through your degree and like through with your school allows you to get that experience so that after you actually have that background to say that you have worked in like a field of health and then gain more exposure as you continue. So I would say, yeah, it's definitely a plus. Like I definitely enjoy my placement and it's been useful to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think co-op just provide that opportunity for you to experience it. I mean, to go from the university campus and to do something, do a real job and to get to know it. Maybe you like it or maybe you don't like it. At least you know by then, right?
Exactly.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Co-op often is interchanged, like the way Breanna was saying, it could be an internship, it could be a placement, it could be experiential learning. All of those is you learning outside of the classroom. So all of them are a great opportunity, just as Ming said, to see what it's really like in industry.
Yeah. And I would say even so with the independent study that I mentioned, it's not, I guess, as practical as like a co-op experience or placement experience. But it is an opportunity for you to like have a research topic that you're interested in. And it's kind of you a background if you're interested in going into grad school in a thesis stream. You get that experience of doing that earlier on because you get to find a supervisor, a professor that's here at the school to run that course for you basically. And again, it's called independent study because it is just you doing it. So there's a lot of like control that you have there. But if you have a specific topic that you're super interested in, you can definitely like research that on your own and continue to learn about that. And that can help you with guidance to like where you want to go after you're complete with your degree.
Yeah, that's right. I think also to echo what you mentioned in your introduction, I think this co-op and all this experiential learning is also helping you to expand your network, right? You get to know professor, you get to know people from industry, so different company. And these are all your, huge assets for future. If you want to look for a job, these people will help you. Professor give you recommendations and someone give you a reference to a different company, right? If you want to go for further studies, and professor will help you with the reference letter. So it's not just about getting the job or getting a little bit of a pay. It's really about extending your networking and to know more people. Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. Also,
Next
sorry, I'll
one.
just say, if you are interested in more school, it's actually a requirement that you have references. And usually for every program, minimum one of them has to be an academic reference, and they don't accept TAs sometimes for stuff like teaching assistants. So you do actually have to have connections with professors or people who have supervised you in a placement setting so that they can speak to your abilities if you're actually interested in applying for things after.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. Okay, let's move on. Question from Amy. Do most programs require a supplementary application? Is it possible to apply with just your grade? I think that's a question.
If the program, I think that would be specific to the program. So some of them have like mandatory supplementary applications, and in that case, your application wouldn't be considered complete. If you do just apply with your grades, you would have to finish that supplementary application. But it's dependent. For me, it wasn't most, because I think I only had to fill out 1 or 2 supplementary applications, but Western specifically didn't have one. And I know some other programs do have them for most. So it's dependent on the school and the program.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next one from Mofi again. How many courses did you take? Did you have to take outside your major?
So in my first year, so basically in each semester, a full course load is like 5 courses at the time, and they can be half year or full length credits for, at least for my program. And so in my first semester, I had the first half of that personal determinants of health course and the first half of biology, leaving me with 3 other open spots. So I had 3 electives technically. And then the second semester, I took the second half of that same health course and another biology, which were mandatory. And so again, I had 3 open spots. So for one of them, I took psychology, which was actually a year-long course, which then only left me with like 2 other slots because that filled up both semesters. But yeah, honestly, there's a lot of option in first year for health sci with, in terms of like the courses you get to pick.
Okay, next question from Ethan. Is the grading culture at your program tough? What is the usual class average for required and the selected courses?
Okay, so averages definitely do change like yearly. It's never the same, obviously, because the students aren't the same. I honestly found grading to be tougher in the first couple years, and a lot of profs do say that, or what I've heard is that sometimes there is an aspect of trying to weed out students earlier on, just because like our programs are really big, like class sizes can be up into 1,000 people in first and second year. And testing in those years will be purely like standardized testing. And so I think it's really a matter of, are you good at multiple choice testing or not for a lot of courses, unfortunately, because there's no way that the faculty and like staff can grade that many like written assignments for big classes that constantly. And so I think it depends on like how you perceive that. For me, I don't love taking multiple choice exams. So I got through it, of course, because I'm here right now, but I found the grading to be tough just because, I don't know, I found that a little more tricky. Now in third and fourth year, my marks have definitely been higher since then. And I guess I would say, I can't just say it's easier because it's been easier for me because there is a lot more writing and application stuff, which I've enjoyed. But for people who maybe aren't as strong with writing essays and stuff, it could be harder. But in general, with averages, there are like cutoffs that professors have to meet for certain courses. So you might hear the term like bell curving. So if marks don't fall within a certain range for a course, then profs might have to boost or lower certain percentages so that the class can fit within that, because there's just expectations that they have to meet, unfortunately. So yeah, those are like set from beforehand. I don't know how they decide on the percentage, but yeah.
Okay, next one from Emma. What type of volunteering job do you recommend for those high school students to do? Have you done any volunteer jobs? Yeah.
Yeah, I did volunteer in high school. I don't think like because my programs didn't have supplementary applications where I got to describe that volunteering, it didn't make a difference in me getting accepted or not. But for my volunteering, I mainly worked at a childcare nursery because I'm hoping to specialize in pediatrics with whatever I do and end up deciding that's the goal because I love working with kids. So I always worked in a childcare nursery, and then a couple events at my school, like here and there, whenever I could volunteer, I would. But yeah, that was for me personally. I know there's a lot of options for volunteering in high school.
Mhm. So yeah, you really know what you want to do, right? When you want to study. So you already start with the nursery volunteering. Yeah, great. Good for you. Okay, next one. Okay, Ray says thank you. Faye says thank you. From Sherry. If, for example, you want to be a doctor, you go directly to a graduate school, or you have to pass an honor program before you go to study graduate programs?
For being a doctor specifically, so that would require going to med school. And with that, if I'm not, if I'm correct about this, I think you technically don't even have to finish your 4-year degree. Some people apply in 3rd year, and if they get in, you can fast track to go then. So you don't necessarily need to do a graduate school program. You can apply in or after your undergrad, your first 4 years, and go to med school right after that. So graduate school isn't like a requirement.
If I could just add, so if your goal predominantly is medicine long-term, then what you want to do is, just like Breanna was saying, is they can take degrees from any background. Where you have an advantage of applying later is med school is incredibly rigorous, not just the application process, medical school itself. So most people tend to complete a full undergraduate, in order to be prepared. And although you can apply early, as Breanna said, all those things are going to be taken in account. So there are some programs and not necessarily at Western, at other school, that you're admitted into what's called a pre-med program. And just as she was describing with Ivy, although you get accepted, you're not really in the program till after 3rd year. What you are indicating though to the university is that is your long-term goals. Medical schools, every medical school actually may have different requirements. So when you're looking into that, it's really important to look at the different universities and what are required. It's designated as a professional school. It is graduate because it's after your undergraduate, but it's a professional school that you can apply earlier in some years. But remember that applying to med school is quite rigorous. They look at everything, academics, volunteer, a lot of things. And that's something perhaps that we could speak more individually about.
Thank you, Helen. Okay, next one. Okay, so this is from Lucas. I don't know where Breanna, you can, yeah, you can give some recommendation, or maybe Helen can help with this question. If I want to apply for computer science, do I have to take Introduction to Computer Science in grade 12?
Yeah, I'll let Helen take that one.
Good question, Lucas. Although I don't know all the details of Western's computer science, definitely I can say that if you know already that that's an area that you want to be studying, it can only help you because you're getting, a head start. Very often, first year university, some people compare it to, aren't I just learning the same things I did in grade 12? And to some extent, it is. initially. The pace is different, it's independent, but just like anything, their students come in at very different levels. So if you take grade 12 computer science, it can only help you.
That's right. I mean, basically just give you a head start, right, against others. Yeah, and then the first year is always messy. I mean, you have so many things happening, and then basically your whole life is changing. So yeah, the more prepared you are, the better you'll handle it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Okay.
this isn't computer science specifically, but when I started getting interested in health sciences and kinesiology, I took kinesiology in grade 12. I knew it wasn't a requirement, but I got into kind of Queens and Waterloo, but I just took it because I was interested in it, and obviously that would have been helpful going into it, but even though it's not stated as a requirement.
Mhm.
Right. So really, it's not just what only the program requires. It's also what is your goal for your own career or your own academic study, right? If you know that's something you want to do, if you have time, do it. Yeah. Okay. Next, from Claire. Okay, so basically Claire is saying that she's interested in biology. So is biology considered a pathway to health sciences? I think that's probably the question.
So here in health sciences, there is an option that's health sciences with biology. So you can technically do both like that. But we also do have biological sciences, which is biology, and that's its own separate faculty. So if you were interested in purely bio, I would suggest that one because there's an option for that. But if it's you liking health sciences as well, there are ways to combine that. So.
Okay. Okay, I think those are the questions. And I'm not sure whether our audience have additional questions. So yeah, you're encouraged to type your questions here. Okay. So Helen, while I'm waiting for maybe a few questions to come up, so I can see that you're actually so experienced in this university application, admission, because you actually work on this university side as well.
Mhm.
So can you just briefly tell our audience like what kind of services Azul provide so that they get a better idea?
Of course. Thank you, Ming. One of the things we do is high school it feels so early to be making those decisions. So what we can provide with is support in that career exploration, in that career decision making, but also identify early what programs, what courses you may take in. So for instance, the question in computer science, if you were asking me and you were in grade 11, I would say, if you know this already, it is to your advantage. And it's also a way to say what part of computer science, because within computer science, there's so much as well. So we help students with that. With the admission process, quite a number of schools are requiring supplementary applications. And I find even programs that in the past weren't are starting to. And that is always for students, what the most nerve-wracking, like what do I write, is needed. So I do meet with students individually. We have some group classes, and just to help sort of what are the key things that should be included. And when it's a student who's in their earlier years, it can be the whole academic planning as far as what type of activities in high school, volunteer and it's not necessarily even to enhance your application to be admitted, but it is to enhance your career exploration to see where you're at and where it's going to be a big fit. I know for now, one of the things that students are finding very challenging is like, how do I decide where to go if I can't go on campus? All post-secondary are offering virtual tours. And I know it's not the same, but they're doing a really good job. So wherever you're interested in, all you have to do is sort of go to that website and find, and there's lots of resources. But I do find our program, one of the things that we have at Azul is we just had one a few weeks ago as an open house where it's students from other universities, just like Breanna, where you have a chance to actually speak with those students and you can go room to room, or you can decide that no, for my child or for me, the preference is one-on-one. So we offer group, one-on-one, and also some larger events that you can learn more about the application process to undergrad as well as graduate school.
Okay, thank you. So I think if our audience do have questions, do need additional advice, and I can encourage them to visit the website, azuleducationservices.com. And then, yeah, Helen and her team will be there to assist you, help you, okay? So I think I have one more question over there, and let's just take a look at it. I know you mentioned a bit earlier in your presentation, although, how did you decide that Western was the school of your choice? Is that your school of your choice, or you said, oh, I should have chosen another one? I don't know.
No, I definitely do not regret it. Western was the
Okay.
right choice for me. Okay, so originally I was interested in health and business, and I think that comes from my mom's a nurse, my dad is in business, so that's probably why it started like that. But yeah, I always knew those were kind of what I was interested in. And so actually out of those 5 schools that I was talking about I got accepted to, it was Laurier and Western that actually had programs where I could do health sciences and business together. At Laurier, it was like a health sciences with the management option. And then at Western, I was able to do potentially, if I actually want to go down that route in the end, a dual degree with Ivy. And so I was between those 2 schools based on the program. So that's what it was for me, because I was like, I want to make sure I like what I'm learning. I love what I'm doing. So after going through, there was obviously a process to like get rid of the other ones at first because there was 5 to choose from, but it ended up coming down to those 2. And so when I said the campus thing earlier, that ended up just being the last factor of how I decided. I went to Laurier, got like an idea of what the vibe of that campus was, like how the school was, talked to people there, did the same thing at Western. And after that is when I kind of knew for sure, because I was like, okay, this has the program option. And I also like the environment. I like the school, I like the residences, I like the people. So all of that together was like, okay, I think Western's the right choice for me. And it definitely was.
Great, great. Yeah, no regrets. That's good. Okay. Okay, there's another question from Sherry. Is health science the same faculty as the life science? Are they the same or they are different?
At Western, they're different. And for us, life sciences is called biological sciences. Or actually, when you're here, you just call it science, and you know that's split into med sciences and biosciences. But yeah, there's different. There are different faculties for sure. The one I've been talking about, health sciences, is more focused on human health, health in society, health, how it functions with people. And then life sciences would focus on more internal aspects of it. So you're looking at molecular levels, cellular levels. So that's the difference with those types of science.
Sherry, it's a really good question and one that students always have, because when they're looking at different schools, they're called different things. And just as Breanna said, if you've been told, oh, apply to life sciences, and then you go look at a Western website and look that, why isn't it here? One of the things that is key to making those decisions is knowing that, just as you were asking about life sciences, in one school, there may be a faculty of life sciences. In another, it may just be biology, chemistry, and there's quite a diversity of how those programs are called. What you're looking for then is, what are some of the courses that are offered there? And that's really what will help you make that decision. I hope that helps you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next one, again from Faith. Are math science students mainly aiming towards math school after university?
From what I know, that is the general consensus, because people who are interested in science, but don't necessarily want to go into medicine or aren't sure, do end up in life sciences, or how it's called here, general sciences, biological sciences, whatever name you go by, because actually in their first year, they have the exact same course requirements. So they are really similar programs. It's just med school, the average is required to get, or sorry, med sciences, the averages are higher to get into the program and stay in the program. And it's more of like, I guess, a direct stream, but the same courses are offered because they all fall under the same faculty at Western.
Faith, if I could add, one of the things, and I don't have an actual statistic to quote right now, but I can very confidently say about 3/4 of a classroom in the health sciences in first year and even second year have their sights on medicine, dentistry, pharmacy, some of the regulated professions. What happens over the years, and just as Breanna was saying, the rigor of the marking, the tough grading is two things. One is you get a greater appreciation for what those subjects really are. But more importantly, what happens is as you're applying to deciding on medicine, third and fourth year is where a lot of students change. They find out by third year, fourth year is, you know what, I don't have the marks, or I don't have this, or I don't have that. Or maybe they even decide medicine isn't what I want to do. I've learned more about what an actual physician or surgeon does, and it's different than what I dreamed about. There's lots of postgraduate programs. Breanna mentioned physiotherapy, rehabilitation, occupational therapy. I can speak because I worked specifically in a program where it was science and business, and this was at U of T that I worked, and it was a Master of Biotechnology. And I did admissions for that, and very often it was students who did start off saying they wanted to work in medicine. But over the years, they realized that the opportunities were diminishing, and they still wanted to work within sciences. They wanted to utilize their strong science background, but they didn't want to work in a lab. They didn't want to work at a bench. They wanted to work more in business. So this is just one example of a program that can then augment your undergraduate in sciences into a specific area. There's many, many more. So without a doubt, you know, there's students do change their mind. And I guess my biggest comment on that is it's okay. You know, you don't have to have it all figured out right now.
Okay, thank you, Helen. Okay, I think that's the questions. And well, again, I think this is actually the 9th webinar for the year. And then we actually started this webinar since last July, June, July last year. So we've been talking with like over 30, 40 students, university, undergrad, even master or doctor students along the way. I think there's one thing in common. I see all this, I mean, we call them like, they're the elites, right, kind of students. Basically, they have one thing in common. Each of them know what they really want to do from high school. And then they start to plan. They start with managing their time and prepare themselves. And then they work hard. And then they excel in their academic studies. So I think there's one thing in common. If you want to become an excel in your academic studies, you have to start your preparation now. So how to start your preparation? I think one is really know what you want, know you, know yourself, your skills, your characters, your dreams. Basically, it's all the things about you. And that's your starting point, right? So I think that's part like Helen can also help in some way, right? We help people to understand you and then plan your future, plan your career, plan your study. So that's what we can do together. Okay, so yeah, again, if you want to know a little bit more about the services, you can always go to Azul Education Services. And actually, we have program coming up for high school students in the next 2 months. So yeah, please stay tuned and join us. And go to our website and subscribe to our newsletters if you like. Yeah. Okay, so I think that's the end of today's webinar, and it has been an hour like what we planned. So I want to encourage everybody to say thank you to Breanna and Helen for their excellent presentation and sharing their knowledge, experience with everyone. Okay, yeah, see that? Okay. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. And hope everybody enjoying the early spring, enjoying the nice weather. Okay.
Thank you. And thank you for your great questions. Bye-bye.
Thank you. A great question. Yes. Okay. Okay. Have a great night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.